Welcome back to Double D for Business, and I'm Dave Evans, and I'm here with...
Debbie Halls Evans.
And Debbie, you sound like you were shouting from far away there. Are you actually here?
No, I'm still here, and I am next to you.
Excellent. So we got lots to talk to you about today. Earlier this week across our social media, you might have noticed that Debbie did a great bit of work on behalf of our RLC about how many days and weeks and hours had passed this year, Debbie. So what's significant about this week so far?
Well, it's been the beginning of a new month. The beginning of that new month is, and also was the start of the next season, so the next half of the year. So that's what I was looking at with the team about the social media, was about the minutes, the seconds, and rather than being focused on what's past and being either diminished or upset or annoyed or not feeling like you've achieved something, it's actually look at what is ahead, look at the opportunity. What are you laughing at?
Diminished.
I know, I was trying to think of a D word.
It's like you were over processing your brain to come up with words. No, I agree with you. I think we've got to be really careful at a time like this, because there are so many people out there on the world stage, on social media, different platforms, who mean well, right? They mean well, but they just go on about it, and they go on about how's your year gone? And we want people to hear that we are asking that same question, but with a completely different take. And that is, it's not about chasing your dreams per se. It's not about chasing everything you haven't done yet. It's about stopping, pausing for a moment, intercepting your consciousness, which is all of your habits and behaviours that have got you this far, finding one of those and doing a better job.
Also, just in light of that, that's really interesting, because it's just brought something flashed up in my mind in a coaching session that I've actually had this week. And one of those conversations that was held in that was we were doing reviewing with the individual, and what actually came out of it was that they'd used some specific language which was undermining and quite diminishing,
derogative,
that's
the
self.
word, yeah.
And there was no need for it to be, and actually it was about strategic vision and purpose, etc., and that they were struggling to connect with it, and what they'd come up with was they weren't going to have a plan. So we had this full discussion about, well, that's really interesting. I said, so by not having a plan, you therefore have a plan.
By default, yeah.
By default.
In the same way, if you say, oh, it's nothing, it means by English definition, it's something. Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, and I think that's where we wanted to be really focused this week about, you know, we can have goals, we can reflect back on them and feel bad we might not have achieved them, and we can talk about dream or dreak in a minute. The thing to me is about transparency, being really honest and candid. If you haven't achieved something, the best question in the whole wide world is, why didn't I? And then what we then do is we fill it with lots of stuff, which actually, can I just say, music, insert, interlude, etc.
Cameron's going to have to do a coaching session from Leverage about how to use Alexa, Debbie, or Google, or any other device. And by the way, I've heard Sonos now do Google.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, there's a new adaptation to that. I got an email today.
So anyway, that Dave's just dropped, I think, about 4 brand names in less than 20 seconds. So just in relation to what we were saying then was, I've lost complete track. What was I talking about?
You're talking about the very fact when someone says they don't have a plan for the next 6 months. That you were talking about a client of yours coaching, and that they did have a plan by proxy, and of course
I moved on from then.
Oh, had you? All right. I was still thinking about what you'd said about earlier this week about the time element. And if you haven't watched that video that Debbie posted of 86,400 seconds in a day, which you can find on YouTube, I was astonished that hardly anybody has seen that video. And for 3 minutes and 10 seconds of your life, it makes a powerful point about the choices that we get to make for ourselves, really. And if you haven't watched that video, do look out for it afterwards. And Debbie, can we put it on the trail of this podcast for people to find it?
So, well, what I was going to say, I've now just remembered what it was that I was going to say, was the double Ds for today. That's why I needed the musical interlude, you see, and that's what to relax, etc.
Yeah.
So, more drop-ins. The 2 words are declaration and dependence.
Just want to clarify, it isn't droppings.
No, drop in.
Drop in.
So the 2 words are dependence.
Sorry, we just apologise. Debbie's having a little bit of wind live on this recording. So if you heard that in your stereo on a Bose system, another name, and you're in your car or any kind of... I hope you didn't pick that up. Anyway, so the two words are...
Declaration and dependence and or dependence.
Oh, and we were talking about this, weren't we, earlier today over dinner, and having a bit of a stiff debate about it, about what declaration did or didn't mean.
I just want to tie into why it fits to what you were just saying, though. So our understanding of declaration and our dependence was why they matter, and it came up because it's July the 4th and it's Independence Day, and I've been posting about how do we be independent, but actually what does declaration mean and stand for? So what I thought I'd do, Dave, is just while you're deciphering what you think declaration is, I thought I would read some part of the USA Declaration of Independence. Now,
all right.
It's not very many words, but there was two things that I was fascinated about. One is that the actual Declaration of Independence was signed on the 2nd of July. Not the 4th of July.
Okay.
And also that it's been discovered that they moved it forward because that was the best day to be having the events, and now everybody celebrates on the 4th of July. So I thought that was quite interesting anyway by default. But listen to this, and this will allow us to have the debate that we were having over dinner about declaration. And this is a very small section of a very, very large declaration. But this bit is really interesting. Remember, this was written in 1776. We hold these...
Carry on, Debbie.
It's very loud.
I know.
So we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That makes me very happy. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organising its powers in such form as to them shall some most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
That's incredibly deep.
Well, it's not just a bit deep. Dave's actually, if you hadn't recognised, Dave was playing the Independence Day, the movie, Will Smith music, which is not in any undermining shape or form impact to the Declaration of Independence for the USA.
Nonetheless, though, it's quite an orchestral piece, isn't it, the theme music to that movie? I was quite surprised. I thought it was just going to be an action piece to match, of course, what was a load of action language.
No, I think the difference here is in what it states is we talk about that we haven't evolved in many shapes or form.
Yeah.
And this was written in 1776, and there's a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about around about declarations. We can have declarations. Our debate was about what is a declaration and why they're significant in today, in the 21st century, and why they're important. But I think this was about, it's a statement of fact, it's a statement of doing, it's a statement of non-emotional intent. It's a fact, and that's what we should respond to, and that's how our debate got really exciting, because, well, for me it was in regards to
your ability to just look at facts and see them for what they are was a really great bit of advice. But what we were debating is, I felt, for those people in the world who aren't automatically wired to respond to facts or to be able to pull emotion or feelings out of a fact, I don't think it was very helpful.
Okay, so thank you for that. So in regards to, let's explore what we actually talked about, because we were having dinner, so we knew what we discussed.
Correct.
And other people weren't having dinner with us.
Oh, good point.
Yes, very good point. So about declarations, why are they significant and important in a 21st century world? They have many reasons. So a declaration, by definition, by dictionary definition, is a statement. Therefore, I genuinely believe, and if we just put this in a professional capacity first, is that we should be and have much more declarative, if that's even a word, of things that we do in the workplace. Because what happens is, and I experience this a lot when I'm coaching from every single level, is that people use their emotion instead of factual evidence. Therefore, we live in a world professionally of assumption, ending somebody's story. Very specific example, let me give you one. Dave's laughing at me because I'm waving my hands around. But a very specific example would be, well, I think they were thinking this. Right, so that's such a dangerous statement in a professional capacity, because first and foremost, there is no fact in there. It's purely driven by emotion.
When you say dangerous, though, because many years ago, a really great coach and orator, Mike Pegg, said, you sometimes overplay your words. Do you mean dangerous or do you mean misleading? It's very different, Debbie. Dangerous is like, I'm about to get hit by a truck, right?
Well, no, again, but their declarative statement is that actually, for me, it is dangerous to say, I think that person is thinking this. I do think it's dangerous because it can take you down a road, and very narrow road, that is really destructive, because you start making stories up. We do it all the time. I'm only talking professionally here, but we also all do it in our personal life.
Before we go personal, I want to be really, really clear with you, because I think if you're listening to this, wherever you are in the world, however experienced you are or are not, I think we don't want you to hear destructive and dangerous. We want you to hear the message first. That's the most important part. If you're using feelings to form perceptions of people, right? Using feelings to go, well, I think, like you said, versus fact, or versus, often people who build perceptions, in my experience, of other things based on feelings are not actually tuned into their intuition either. They think it is, but it's not even intuition. It's just a feeling you had at that moment in time. And if somebody validates it, it's actually even worse. So I want us to be really clear here, because I think you could go down the wrong track completely.
Okay.
It is about, as you have said, not making feelings your overarching thing you judge situations, people, or opinions of things from. It's part of a formula. It's part of a recipe, isn't it? And therefore, if you're only making a feelings decision, you should be genuinely weighing up a few other things. But you were talking specifically, Debbie, professionally about other people. So if you hear somebody going, I think they think this, because let's come back to that, right? If you say the word I think, that means you aren't sure, doesn't it? Generally,
which then means it's not a statement of fact. And I think my concern and reservations is when we prefix something with the words I think, it means we've not established the facts. It also means that we potentially, and again linguistically, protecting this so that it feels more about you individually looking at how you communicate. But it either also means that you're not definite about your own beliefs. Because if I am continuously saying, well, I think I can do that.
But with the context of a declaration, though. So if you say I think in a declaration, you're also making the declaration not really that effective. Because I think is not a formal thing, is it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that.
So I do like what you're saying. I think means I should find out. What's important here, though, with declaration, because we want to get into business in a minute, as well as personal, is that what's important for me here, Debbie, and what you're saying is that if the context is you're just discussing something, I think means you should investigate more, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. And I know that what we must be doing in those situations is that we should give ourselves permission to say, I'm not sure. I am genuinely not sure. And what I'd like to do is then go and find out more information. It might be that I go and look in different places where I've never looked before. It might be that I actually just sit back and reflect on my own beliefs or thoughts or process. Why do I think that, rather than what do I think that other person's thinking? Because all of these things, when we declare something, are about self. They're from self. So they have to be what we think and what we believe and what we feel, because we can't pass that on to somebody else. If I'm having an argument with you, because I know that's very rare, Dave.
Yeah.
But when I'm having an argument with you,
you have very good arguments with yourself.
I do. But that's the point. Yeah. That's the whole point, because I am actually having an argument with myself.
Yeah.
Because I will then say, well, this is what you're thinking. And, I'm a coach, so it doesn't mean that we're infallible, doesn't mean that we don't get this right or wrong all the time. It means we have a balanced life, and we have to pause and step back and go, actually, do you know what? Yes, I do need to reconsider and think about that. Why am I reacting like that? Why am I responding like that? Why am I declaring that I know what you think when none of us as humans have discovered the ability to
and I want to link this, if that's okay with you, Debbie, in a moment, straight into the 4th of July and the impact of that declaration. And I want to talk about how you can still do that today in business. So before we do, though, let's talk about two really great guides, two really great ways of working this out. One is Brené Brown. Yep. Brené Brown says, the story I'm telling myself is right now. And if you haven't heard her work, some fabulous books. That was one of the most breakthrough things I've learned this year, was the story I'm telling myself is. And then asking your other half or your friend or your loved ones to take you seriously when you say it. So because you're actually signaling you're a bit stuck. And actually, if they love you, care for you, they'll stop and go, hold on, I need to listen to this. And if they don't, you need to probably think about what you do next very carefully. But the story I'm telling myself is, because it gets you out of the stuck seat when you express where you're at. What was the other one we were talking about earlier?
So this is the lady called Byron Katie, and she runs a whole program around this. And there is 4 statements, but the first statement is what you need specifically to get yourself started. And the question you ask self is this true? And I just think that's a phenomenal question in any situation, professional or personal. Mm-hmm. If you actually stop, and if you're making a decision about somebody, or it's a client, or you start saying something, or you start referencing something else, turn around and think, is this true? And it's as an exercise, it's actually quite amazing.
It is, yeah. Do you remember the other 3?
Off the top of my head, no. But what I will do is I'll put all the links.
It's definitely worth it.
Brené Brown, because it's the Netflix bit that you were referring to, that you watched, and also Byron Katie, her book, because it's a brilliant book. I listen to it on Audible, but you can download the whole PDF, and I love that kind of stuff. So, but
one of the other ones that I read and you shared with me was, what would you do if this wasn't true?
Yes, yeah.
And I also love that. And there's 2 more worth seeking out to add to your...
What would you do if?
Yeah, correct. And it just allows you to... The questions are structured in such a way, it's very difficult not to apply them because they're so well structured. And you have to consider the alternative view. So if you are...
I've got the 4 questions. Can I just do it? Because this is really important. It's really powerful stuff. So question 1 that you ask is it true?
Yeah.
That's question 1. Question 2 is, can you absolutely know it's true?
Great question.
It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
Question 3 is, how do you react, or what happens when you believe that thought?
That's a really good one.
So powerful stuff.
And number 4?
And then the final one is, who would you be without the thought?
And I love those questions. And, we could do a session on those alone. But if you've heard those for the first time, pause this now for a second and just think about them again. Rewind just a little bit. Hit the back 20 seconds, and hear them again. And just think about situations you find yourself in. I've got loads in my life that you could then actually completely circumnavigate with different outcomes, different ideas and different thoughts. So 2 really great sets of advice as a guide there to help you if you find yourself in that place where you're saying, I think this about that person, or I think this about that situation, and you're not sure. This is a great way of self-evaluating and getting yourself back into a really resourceful place. So the declaration in the USA on the 4th of July, Debbie, was it you told me today was actually the 2nd of July, is that right?
Yeah, so I did mention it at the beginning, dearest.
Yeah.
But in regards to, it was signed on the 2nd of July, but the actual official celebration is the 4th of July.
And they didn't really have, did they, back then, fast ways to communicate things either. So, you couldn't just send an email to the whole world, could you? Or tweet it.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I want to mention specifically about the declaration is not the history lesson. There's enough you can read out there, watch on the internet, watch movies about all of that fabulous stuff. But it's the impact it has in America. Mm-hmm. I'm yet to meet many Americans who don't know what it's about. I'm yet to meet many Americans who don't have a bit they care about the most. And they passionately display this in their, even if they haven't got the greatest knowledge, they care about it. It's in their, they're indoctrinated to a degree. And that's the power of a historical declaration, right? And I'd like to link that in a minute to business directly, because I've got some real clear thoughts about what if businesses took this seriously, the difference they would actually make. Because here we are, several hundred years later, on the 4th of July, and all of these memories, celebrations keep going year in, year out as part of the fabric of the United States of America. So, when you look at that, what if we could do that in business, Debbie?
Well, if we could do it in business, I was just going to share Neville Chamberlain's speech with you, but then you went straight into the business one because I wanted to validate how declarations can be so different and how important they are from an individual level. So I wanted to do comparatives of the USA Independence Declaration, but also in Britain, I couldn't find, when I did all the research, the only I could find was declarations of war.
Well, they're pretty serious too.
They're pretty serious. But Neville Chamberlain, I'll also put the link in the podcast. But in regards to what he says about the Declaration, going back to business, okay. So for me and for us, and part of our discussion that we've been having is a declaration within the business place is about a statement, and we fit that statement around a framework. So by delivering a framework, we are declaring and making a statement of fact of how a business can function, operate, cultural values, behaviours.
Let's make a real big declaration from all of our experiences, right? We call our framework the best version business framework. We do that for a reason. Because if you're a firm owner, you're a leader, you're a director in business today, and you want to make a platform available to bring the best out in your people, right? If that's what you want to do, and you want to make it really stand out, then that's what that process does. That's what the framework itself does. Because it takes away grey, it takes away fluff. Right? Mm-hmm. And that means if you think about all the bad behaviors in business, whatever you think they are, right? Here's one, right? We are living in an age today where big corporate companies think it's perfectly okay to not phone you back.
Oh yeah.
Or not read an email.
Yep.
Right? Or just ignore things and act like they never even received things. And there are many big companies we know that do this. Worse still, they do it with service these days.
Yeah, they do.
And actually, what is it that allows those things to happen? And I put it to you, it's the lack of declaration in exactly how we want our businesses to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because what happens is that it also gets misinterpreted. So because there isn't clarity in the declaration, therefore no framework, I don't understand what I should or shouldn't be doing. I don't know how to define it for me, because actually if I, as an individual within a corporate or a business, I might have a different thought process, but the business has got a very clear path to that, therefore declaration, therefore declaring this is how we will continue to run our business.
And if you think about the critical elements of the best version business framework, without giving you them all here in the next few minutes, one of the things it produces is a very clear page view of what your business is. And that means, let's take behavior. There are so many people in the world today in business who have a perception, you talked about it earlier, Debbie, I think the best behavior is, versus what we're saying is, best version companies determine specifically, exactly with a declaration, we will be like X. We will not be like Y. Years ago, we were working with a client and they had this really ambitious value that was about being pioneering and doing things the marketplace had never seen before. But the word they used to summarize it, and I won't tell you what the word was, let's just imagine it was being brave for today, right? If I beat you in the canteen queue, getting my lunch, and I pushed in front of you, I could say, I'm living out the value of the business by being brave because I took your place. And actually, whilst that's a ridiculous situation, people who were doing that, Debbie, were commissions. Being brave and being louder than the people that actually did the work in the first place, because the behavior wasn't defined, it wasn't declared. This is what makes us who we are, and therefore if you're like that, fantastic. If you want to be like that, fantastic. If you're not, though, you can't be part of this business because you don't fit the declared framework that business is looking for. So I want to make a declaration to anyone listening today. If you've not got a best version business framework, talk to our consult team in the United States, talk to our United Kingdom team, talk to the ones that work with us in the EU, get one of those in your hands and put a declaration in your business so that your people know once and for all exactly how to be, how to act, how to be successful in your company. And that's the power of a modern day, I think, declaration, Debbie. What do you think?
No, I totally agree. I also, because it is brilliant, by the way, but I also just want to finish on a really nice declaration.
All right.
Because the other side of declaration is, and if you research this and you just type in declaration, you'll get declaration of love.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So
is this about Monty?
No, well, yes, I declare my love for my little pooch, but that's my dog. Just in case this goes really wrong.
It's a D, Debbie.
It's a D. It is my dog, Monty. Our dog, the dog. But I think to me, this is what it's all about. When you say a declaration of love, it's a statement of fact of how you feel and what your definition of love is. And I would like to just give my declaration of love that I love you, darling husband.
Oh, Debbie, that is so lovely.
And
That's
so
lovely.
It's now in recording.
In recording or on recording?
On recording.
And I'm really glad you told me that, actually. I'll comment about it in a second.
I'd like you to just say that's good.
It is tremendous, right? And I love you with every part of me, as
good.
you know.
That's the
right?
response, yes.
So, I was talking to somebody this week, right, where there's a situation where the generation above, right, so 2 decades before, tell other people in the family how much they love one of their offspring, and by the way, don't actually tell the person. So we want you, if you're listening to this, to learn the best way, which is to make a declaration directly to the person that you love. Tell the person. It could be a compliment. It could be sending them a card. It could be, Pauline and Kevin were with us last week on the podcast. Pauline is a masterclass at this, isn't she? She writes a card, Debbie. She sends a card. She tells you herself. And let's make this 4th of July that the day you tell the person, look them in the whites of their eyes if you can, on FaceTime. So
you might not be listening on the 4th of July, just
that's
to let
a
you
good
know.
point. It could be the 5th.
You could be listening on any day
of the year. Yeah, that's right. Make it a life practice to tell the person that you care about or just want to encourage them, tell them to their face. Go out of your way to really build them up, edify them, make them stronger, and of course then tell somebody else afterwards.
So the finale, my language has been bad tonight, so apologies. But the finale of this is, as with anything, a declaration is nothing without action. As in, learning is nothing without action and application. So when you declare your love, when you declare and you're going to build your best version business framework, you then have to do it.
Do it, yeah.
And that, to me, is how we end the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So tune in with us next week. We've got more double Ds. We're going to be updating you on Debbie's Dream or Dreak and my Dream or Dreak next week as we go a week further into 2019 second half Q3. And of course, more seconds and hours
just to
and
let you
days.
know, we are a business that's fundamentally built on straight talking, and Dave has just given you 4 business cliches, one after the other, like a domino folding.
I can do much better than that. Sure, and as we keep all of these things on the radar, on the same page. I'm kidding now.
It actually makes my skin crawl.
Anyway, next week we'll update you on Dream or Drink as to how Debbie got on and how I got on with that challenge. And if you've, of course, took part in that yourself, we'd love to hear from how you did. We're also going to update you on a few new initiatives coming later in the year that we think are really, really exciting as well, that you can do anytime. So good luck with your declarations. Every success as you get into the rest of your week. Can I just finish it?
Because you're now just wrapping up and you do that and I've not finished yet.
Oh, what do you want to say, Debbie?
So because you need to finish on the right point.
Okay.
So the point is about the summary, and then people finishing the podcast and getting actively going to do something or being able to absorb the information. The declaration is a statement of fact. Therefore gives structure, support, guidance, nurtures. It's a brilliant thing, whether it be the best version business framework or whether it be a personal declaration.
Yes.
However, it comes hand in hand as a perfect marriage together by action and application. Thank you.
I've been Dave Evans. This has been
Debbie Halls Evans.
Double D for Business.